to the cloud. Okay, here we go. This is our project on Genius Hour. And our research question is, how can we motivate students to learn using interest-based learning projects? So basically what Genius Hour is, it's based on Google's 20% time, and which is when they would take a full work day or 20% of their work week to research whatever they wanted. And this led to a bunch of things like creating Gmail. So AJ Giuliani took this model and kind of translated it into Genius Hour, which is for schools. So basically teachers will dedicate 20% of their class time to letting students explore whatever they want. And they use lots of different resources for gathering information. So they can use books, all different sorts of internet resources like videos, webinars, different websites, and just different articles that they can find online. And then their final project is shared with their class, and then maybe it's shared with the grade, or maybe it's shared with the whole school. It kind of depends on the school and what the student feels comfortable with and all of those different factors. But the most important part is that they get to choose whatever topic they want, and their final project is something that's meaningful. So an example of that would be a student that wants to learn more about American Sign Language because they have a deaf relative. Then they would research and learn how to sign a song or something like that, and then can really personal. Sorry, my internet just flickered, but we're good. Okay, so it's a really personal, meaningful project that gonna retain that information. And I put this quote in at the end just because I thought it was really cool. It is, both what is learned and the learning environment are shaped to the learner. And I think that pretty accurately describes what Genius Hour is. Okay, so the need. This topic of Genius Hour is so important and desperately needed. It is so engaging for the students and the teachers, and it really is meaningful information that they're learning. It's not it's not just a fun project that they'll forget about in a year. It's something that they will really take and use for the rest of their lives. And it gives students the independence and ownership over their learning. This is important because when students feel personally connected to it, they're way more likely to retain that information and care about it and produce a quality project. And it really caters to the unique needs of each student. It is based on what they like, and it's all kind of about them. They can make it whatever they want. And another quote from AJ Giuliani is, "We spend 14,256 hours in school between kindergarten and graduation. If we can't find a time for students to have some choice in their learning, then what are we doing with all those hours?" And I thought that was another really great quote, because the point of school is to teach our kids. And if we're not having them in our mind sight, then what's the point? You know, it's important to keep them in our focus. So the stakeholders for Genius Hour is really everyone in the school community. The students, it gives them a voice and a way to find their passions. It gives them creativity skills, critical thinking skills, research skills, and really makes them love their school more. And for teachers, it allows them to find new ways of teaching and go outside of their comfort zone. Teachers and students alike are able to take those risks, but know that it's okay if it doesn't go as planned. And that kind of low risk environment is really important, because it takes away that fear of messing up, because there really isn't a way to mess this up. If something doesn't go as planned, they just change the plan. It's not it's not such a high risk situation. And then parents, it's another way to connect with their kids. One example of that is there was a set of parents and they knew that their daughter loved fashion. She was always dressing up. She was always putting on fashion shows for the family. And so for her project, she decided to create a fashion line. And when the parents saw that their child had really created from scratch, she sewed a whole set of clothes, they were really impressed, and it kind of, gave them something to talk about and really allowed them to see, oh, my kid can really do that. My kid is really like important, and my kid can really do a lot more than we think they can, which is super important. It's also important for teachers to see that, because it's not always easy as teachers to see the full potential of a child. Even though we try to, it can be difficult sometimes. So this is another way to kind of let kids shine. And then administrators, it is proof that, there's meaningful learning going on. So when they see their students really loving what they're doing and creating meaningful projects, it would be a kind of a nice, I don't want to say ego boost, but a nice confirmation, reassurance that they are doing what they're supposed to be doing. I paused that for a second.
Okay.
Should I play that video or no?
Doesn't matter.
I don't want to play two videos, so I'll just play.
Skip this one, play the other one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So the payoff is enormous here. It allows students to actively create their learning rather than just kind of consume it. So instead of just sitting there listening to the teacher, they are really engaged in it, and they are the ones finding that information and putting it to use. And it also, prevents the teacher burnout by engaging the whole school community. It kind of takes away the stress a little bit, because teachers get to see that their kids are doing something really awesome, and it's fun to see what they come up with. It's really cool to see all the different projects that happen and hear all of that learning happening in the classroom. And students own their learning process. They become more reflective, insightful, creative, and truly lifelong learners. And then they innovate. So whether they're creating a new app on a phone, or they're making a board game, or they're making a fashion line, they are creating something, and they're having that innovative sense, and they're creating meaningful things. So an example of that is Google employees. They spend 20% of their time working on ideas and projects that interest them, and then Google gets 50% of their new products ideas out of it. So everyone, it's kind of a win-win situation. And we have a short video that I hope works while I'm recording the screen. We'll see. Can you hear it?
I can hear it.
We know that it's important to move from compliance to student engagement, but what happens when we take it a step further and empower our students to own their learning? Well, here are 7 ideas. They fall in love with learning by finding joy in pursuing their passions and geeky interests. And in the process, they learn how to research and curate and communicate. They embrace a maker mindset as they walk through a design process and launch their work to the world. They develop iterative thinking, viewing mistakes as a chance to learn. And this leads to a shift from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. They become self-starters, exploring new frontiers, asking hard questions, and trying new things. They become problem solvers and systems thinkers, but they also challenge the system as hackers who think divergently and rewrite the rules. They become architects of their own learning, engaging in project management and collaboration. AJ Giuliani puts it this way: our job is not to prepare students for something. Our job is to help students prepare themselves for anything. In other words, when we empower our students, they're able to own their learning
All right. So resistance. A lot of times, because it's a new idea, teachers will
Carolyn? Carolyn? Okay, we're back. Sorry about that. Here we go. We'll try this again.
All right, resistance. Oftentimes in a school, you'll have resistance to new changes and new ideas. So one thing you can do is try and find time within the school schedule to allow Genius Hour to occur in like a consistent way. Whether it's maybe instead of morning work, you do Genius Hour for an hour every morning to start their day off, or you do Fun Friday and you do it on a Friday kind of thing. Another way to try and curb resistance is ensuring teachers understand how Genius Hour time can align with the standards, because a lot of times they'll be like, well, I have to teach all this stuff. I don't have extra time for this when I have all these standards to teach. But the thing is you can align standards to Genius Hour and you can hit both at once, and it's more beneficial for students that way. Another thing is ensuring all teachers have been trained and understand how to implement Genius Hour for optimal success with students. So one way you can do this is have a PD day when you're introducing it, and before you even like tell them you're going to do it, give them their own Genius Hour to do and let them explore it and be part of the process. And then from that, they'll realize how beneficial it is. And then another thing is inform families about Genius Hour. A lot of times they'll be like, another new thing that they have to do, but this one relates to academics and standards. So informing families about how it makes that connection is going to make them less resistant to it. Okay, culture. So we need to provide the time for when Genius Hour can take place, as I said last time in the resistance slide. We need to give teachers their own Genius Hour to get them on board, to build that climate of teachers being motivated to try something new. And we need to front load all the potential benefits for students from this type of learning and how this type of work could be very helpful in the various learning settings. So you can do it in school, remote learning. I know somebody who's done it through remote learning, resource classrooms and all that stuff. So getting that climate and the culture behind Genius Hour is going to benefit you. And Genius Hour, so the quote on the bottom is, the only source of knowledge is experience. So by doing is how you gain your knowledge, and Genius Hour is a doing project. So that's how students will gain a lot of knowledge. All right, so implementation. What can we do? Well, 1, set aside time each week. 2, introduce it to the class. So show an inspirational kid president video. He's got a few of them that gets you motivating, gets you thinking, gets kids to brainstorm interests and changes they want to see. Create a class action plan. So how will the process look? What's your timeline? Planning guides. So a lot of times, especially at the elementary level, graphic organizers, planning pages, helps kids organize their thoughts and their ideas down. And then research methods. This is where you're also going to teach a lot of those nonfiction literacy research methods standards, because you're teaching them how to research what resources they can do and what kind of information they're supposed to be looking for. So then you're going to send them off to do their research, and through their research process, they're going to journal it and keep track of their notes, the different research methods used to get and all the steps that they took to get to their final project. This is very reflective for them. So it's good because they're thinking back and they're critiquing their own work. And then the last step is presenting their final products. So maybe you're presenting a PowerPoint or an actual physical object, but you want to try and present to authentic audiences. So say a student wrote a book, maybe they're going to present their book to an actual publisher to try and get it published. That's their authentic audience. And at the end, you're going to debrief and then celebrate their success, because it's a big thing that they just did and accomplished. And then evaluation. So for students, they're evaluating through their journaling because they're reflecting on what they're doing. They're evaluating themselves when they're doing peer reflections and peer collaborative groups. Their peers are evaluating them and giving constructive feedback. Teachers are doing weekly collaborative sessions. They're working with students either in a small group or one-on-one. That's when teachers can give feedback. That's also a good time for teachers to get feedback from students and figure out where they need to go next and what their next steps are. So maybe they need to continue teaching certain research skills, or maybe they need to back off a bit and let students just go. And last, I put in a comic and just go out and innovate. So the comic says, "The world is so big and I am so small. How could I possibly contribute anything that matters?" And the other one gives a flower, and a flower matters. So these small things, students a lot of times will think, well, what can I do that can contribute? Like, I'm just a kid. Well, what they can do is create a Genius Art project, and a lot of times that will contribute to society and to bigger projects and ideas. So I thought the comic was good. Okay.
So that's what we have. I hope this recording goes well. If not, I don't know what else we'll do, but
We'll figure it out.
that's it.